Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gemini Rising. I'm Ann Wolke, and today I'm here with my co-host, Natalie Sadie, and today's guest, Chris Reck from Minnow Tarot, and he's also CEO of the Dent Makers community, and he has a secret obsession with geckos that we'll get to later. And he's also a Gemini moon, so he's an honorary Gemini placement, or an actual honorary placement for today. Right. So thank you, Chris, for being with us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So I have to ask, what's your rising? Because you're Pisces sun, Gemini moon, and Aquarius rising.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah, Aquarius, he's the water bearer with a fish. No wonder you have the Minnow Pond logo with a little minnow in the bowl. Actually, does that have any connection to tarot?
That was a complete accident. So I had a company like a while ago. I was trying to copy Groupon. I don't know if anyone remembers Groupon. And so I had that logo created, but I never really got that company going. But I had the logo. And at that time, I also started the channel. So I didn't want to waste the logo. And that's how I came up with Minnow Pond. I just needed a logo. That's it.
Okay. Well, I like it. It's perfect.
That's how it happened. Yeah. Yep.
So you started with tarot, and actually, I know we had so many questions that we wanted to ask. So this is the nature of the show for people who haven't watched it before. It's called Gemini Rising, not just because Natalie and I are Gemini Risings, but because, and it's not astrologically based, right? It's just the fact that we like to ask a lot of questions and we're curious about a lot of things. And so we have obviously a very long list of questions for you today. But one of the things I was wondering about is, I think you created your YouTube channel in 2013, but I don't know if that's when you did start tarot. And we really wanted to find out something about what the tarot landscape on YouTube was like back then.
Yeah, back then. So I don't know if I started in 2013 or 2014. I think it was 2013. But back then there weren't very many people. Even when I started, like I think David Leo King had the most subscribers at the time for a spiritual channel. So no one that I can remember had over 10,000 subscribers. So it was pretty, it's much smaller than it is right now.
Yeah.
So I have a YouTube based question, because in watching some of your videos a year ago, you posted about how YouTube was changing and that YouTube was essentially throttling certain content, specifically long form content. And I have noticed, and my channel is nowhere near the size of yours, but I swear to God, there are times where I see my views and it's at a certain number and then it drops significantly.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I'm crazy. There are also times where it is impossible to get any sort of traction with the content. And I get that if it's not good, but when you look at the interaction on the videos, everyone that's watching it is commenting, liking, and interacting with it. But then it's just not going anywhere. And I'm curious as to, you obviously saw an issue, but do you think it's continuing on today?
I think it's always changing. Even just recently, they made a change. So they're like pushing smaller channels and they're not pushing bigger channels as much. So like all the bigger channels have seen a drop in their views recently. So yeah, I mean, I could go down a million rabbit holes with that one for long content, short content, and what could be going on with that. But the views thing is super interesting. Even me, I have my analytics always up right over here. And I will see it, the views go up and then they drop. And so I actually talked to YouTube about this, and they said what is happening is that they're testing for like real viewers. And so if they think that, that top chunk, like if you see that drop where you have like a graph that goes up and then it disappears, that those might be fake viewers or bots. And there are, in fairness to YouTube, there are like a lot of bots on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, Yeah. I know that you're a real advocate for people just getting content up, right? Just
Right. Yeah,
people
absolutely.
jumping in and creating and not worrying about it being perfect. Although that kind of holds back a lot of us because we
Right.
really do want it to be. But do you think that tarot is a place people can still jump into, or has it become saturated since you started?
I feel like two ways about it. Gemini, right? So I
Mhm.
feel that it's like on one hand, I think that it's probably the best. I think tarot is the best for people who want to experiment and test new ideas. There's so much you can get views so quickly in tarot that if you wanted to learn how to learn YouTube or learn how to like test titles, it's probably the best place to start. I do think it's a little saturated, but I also think that's a good thing because everybody does the same thing. So if you wanted to get on and you had like a different approach, or if you talked about different topics than what everybody talks about, I think you would actually grow faster than probably anyone else.
Mhm.
And what do you think about YouTube in terms of their algorithm? Because
Mm.
it's a similar thing. I post clips of, I used to post about my dog when I had him, and then when it first started, I did a few dance videos, but really it's not what I'm interested in. So I post clips of my interviews and my shows and
Mm.
all of that. And I have a couple of videos that I keep getting notifications, people have liked it, and it's not going up. And it'll be the same thing, that the video will drop, it will take off, and then everything just stops. And I know that your content, you're on TikTok and you post a lot of snippets of your work, but it's not your main sort of platform. But are you noticing similar things with their algorithms?
Yeah, so you mean the TikTok and Instagram versus YouTube? Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's really weird because I've tracked this for a very long time. Different things that I post, different places. So whenever I post like the same clip somewhere, I always track what's getting the most views, and it seems to like rotate around. So sometimes I'll have a short. I have one on Instagram that got over 600,000 views now, and that was only on Instagram. But everywhere else, like TikTok and YouTube, it only got like 20, 30,000, something like that. So it's kind of like different all over the place as far as views are concerned.
Hmm. One of the things I saw on, I think it's on the Dent Makers community or
Mm.
on the Dent Makers website, somewhere you wrote that you help people create content that's good enough,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Good enough.
So
Right.
can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, I think people like try to create content for, they want like 10 million views or something, but good enough content will get you that million views. So you don't have to have 10 million views on a video to do well. I think a lot of people, especially on YouTube, they think that they want that 10 million views. They think they want the most views or to become famous, but I encourage people to focus on like what is the goal of your content. So if you're selling something, for example, you don't necessarily want 10 million views. Maybe you do, but it might be better to have 1,000 people that watch your video and 900 buy whatever you're selling than it would be to have that 10 million views. So I think good enough content is getting enough, doing good enough to get that amount of views that will get you what your actual goal is.
Okay, great. So then also, could you say a little bit more about your Dent Makers community?
Yeah, so Dent Makers is all about making your dent in the universe. It's been like I say, it's why I lost my hair recently. All my hair's falling out, right? And so I've been working on that for over almost 2 years now. We were in development, and then I had to get rid of a person that was working on it, and then we had to start all over again. So it's been a really long process, but yeah, it's all about making your dent through sharing your voice is really kind of the goal. Getting people to create a system where they can kind of live the life of their dreams or implement more of their passion or their passion-based projects into their own life. So, I always say it's not only about content creation or, wanting to be a content creator. I think that really I started with it for personal development. That's why I came up with the system in the first place. And so it was never about content creation. It just kind of ended up going in that direction.
Hmm.
And going back to when you did begin, what was the reception like on YouTube when you launched with tarot?
For when I started the channel,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like slow at first. I was stuck for like 4 years. I was stuck at like 40,000 subscribers. So it took a long time to really kind of get going with the channel itself. looking back, there were a lot of things that I wasn't doing. I'm a marketer. I come from the marketing world, and I wasn't using I wasn't doing anything to, promote my videos or get them out there or anything like that. So it was slow for me at first, but then I woke up.
And what does that mean when you woke up?
Yeah.
I just started, I started trying for real. So, that's when I started. That's when I started with I didn't know it then, but that's when I started my, Dent Maker system, which really started with me learning one new thing every single day about YouTube, and then just putting it into practice and trying what I learned, and then, but also tracking it. I think, coming from the marketing thing, I used to work with businesses where they would sell something, but they wouldn't actually know what was selling, for example. So, translated to YouTube, it's like I was doing things, but I didn't actually know what was getting the views, what was working, what people were responding to. So I got real nerdy about it, and I dug into it, and I really figured out what was working.
And was the audience super responsive to a tarot channel? I mean, obviously they are now. You're not far off 1 million subscribers, which is amazing. But tarot, pardon me, like astrology, can be quite polarizing. There are people that just think it's witchcraft and terrible and all of that. So did you come up with a lot of resistance when you first started it?
I would say no. Actually, I think it's worse now. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So I get way more of those. Actually, recently it's been quiet. So, but yeah, it's one of those weird things. I always say that I wonder if there's some church out there or something that sends people out all at once, because it's weird on YouTube. I don't know if any other readers notice this, but I'll have a wave come through of a bunch of comments you're going to hell or whatever all at once, but then they'll disappear for a year, 6 months, then they'll come back. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
So you have a theory they all attended some big service somewhere, and then that was the mission.
it's super weird. I don't think it's a conspiracy or anything, but it's just weird that all of a sudden on 1 or 2 days, I'll get all of those comments all at once.
But what's interesting about when you started, I mean, when I think about this, that you and also David Palmer, that we mentioned as well. So you were some of the first people out there doing tarot on YouTube for a collective audience.
Right.
And, before that, I remember you'd see tarot readers at the local psychic fair, right? That's the only context in which you would see readers. So when I first saw the idea of doing tarot on YouTube, I was thinking, how could that actually apply to individuals?
Right.
So what do you think about that? And were you worried about that at all when you started?
No, not really. I mean, I look at tarot very differently than most people. I think I don't necessarily see it as predictive. I think it can predict things, but I see it more as just reading the energy that exists for, everybody. So just by limiting it to the sign, I'm just reading really just the energy that the sign can work with. So, I think that's why, I don't look at it oh, it's not individual, it's not personal, so it won't make sense to, all these people.
I'm always curious how people do collective readings, because I can read tarot, but it's not my preferred thing. I actually do oracle card readings, and I do them on the High Vibe Network. I've recently started a weekly Oracle Wisdom channel on YouTube, separate to this channel that we're on at the moment. And I don't promote it. I just let it sit there, and I figure it can sort of do its thing. And I read it much the same way. So I'm curious about a couple of things. First of all, when I'm doing the oracle card readings, I've had to learn to switch my conscious mind off, because otherwise that gets in the way, where I'm like, oh, is it really this? So I just say what it is. I never have a memory of it afterwards. Do you have a memory of the messages that you deliver for the signs?
Yeah, sometimes, but I'm the same way. I just start talking. I just let it come out. So I'm not really thinking about what I'm saying. There are certain things, but it's mostly the themes between the signs that I remember, or, I'll remember something about Gemini from week to week to week, where it's always the same. So, if there's something that repeats, I remember it, but most of the detailed stuff, I pretty much never remember.
And okay, so if you search for tarot today, probably most of the time it's going to be somebody out there searching for tarot because they're interested in love readings, right? I mean, there's just so many people looking at love with tarot, and you started doing more just collective reads and looking at everything, right?
Right.
So I'm just curious about what what you think about all of the love readings out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not interested in it. I think it's fine. I think people need to watch it. So yeah, I think that it's one of those things. Most of the people that are watching it want their ex back, or whatever the case may be. So and I think people need that at times. I said like a while ago that someone asked me basically, do I think it's wrong that people do these ex back readings? And I thought about it and I said, not really, because if you're watching those readings, it's like eventually you're going to say to yourself, okay, this bozo's not coming back, so it's time to move on. And so I think maybe the readings shorten the amount of time, because after you hear enough times that this person that cheated on you, whatever, is going to come back, maybe you say, oh, they cheated on me, why would I want this person back? So I think it kind of like helps the process. It's almost like a healing process, right? You hear it so many times, and then I think it makes people kind of realize they should just move on.
Natalie, do you have a question about that?
I have many, and I'm deciding which one I go with. So, because I've seen some of these readings, and in fairness, a couple of the readings that I saw, they were using tarot and oracle cards, and I bought some of my favorite oracle decks from watching them, because they've pulled these cards, and I've just gone, oh, I've got to have it. I'm one of those people that when people go, someone's coming back to you, I sit there and go, because when I'm done, I'm done. I cut it off. I do not want them back. I left for a reason, and it's not going to work. There are people. So you've got obviously so many tarot oracle readers across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, the whole lot. Then you've got a whole lot of people that will criticize all of these people and call them charlatans. I've seen all sorts of people, and they will name and shame them. And in this process, they'll say, I'm a master tarot reader, or I'm a master astrologer, and all these people are wrong. And I sit there and go, who are you to say? And working in the spiritual community, I know a lot of the people that they're talking about, and I go, I believe these people are genuine because I've met them, I've worked with them, and I have so much respect for them. I'm not asking you to name or shame anyone, but where do you sit with these people that come out and try to put other readers down?
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I feel like I just stick to myself, like, for the most part. And so I never talk about any of the other channels or anything. And I think if anyone is doing this, like, I have a lot of respect for pretty much anyone that wants to read tarot, because it's a lot of work. Even the people that just do 12, I do 24 a week, but even the people that just do all 12 signs per week, I think people don't realize how much work 12 videos every single week is. So I have a lot of respect for that. And yeah, I think a lot of those people, if you're putting someone else down, it's like you're just trying to lift yourself up, is the way I see it. So I think it's kind of like a cheap trick.
So you mentioned how many videos you do per week. How do you juggle doing all those videos and your personal life?
Yeah, well, I don't. So and that's just, those are the videos that I just do for the tarot channel. Never mind all the other video I do. So yeah, I pretty much don't, which is probably not healthy, but I do stick to a schedule at least. So, I wake up right away. I wake up pretty early, and, I do 4 videos every day, no matter what. So as long as I do 4, then I'm always, after a certain amount of time, I'm always ahead. And that pretty much lets me take a day off here and there if I need to. That believe it or not, that one extra, because I only release 3 on Monday through Friday or whatever. I do 3 readings a day, and 4 on the weekends and Monday or something. So I don't even know, but that one extra really helps out. So I tell everyone to, like, stick to a schedule if you're going to do it, even if it's like 4 a day. And then some days I'm super motivated and I'll do 8 or something like that.
Wow.
Do you find posting them is a full-time job in and of itself? Because when I've done one of my long form interviews, I do the editing process, and then there are times where I finish, because once I'm in the groove, I'll work through the night to get a video finished. But there are times where it's 5 a.m. and I go, I should just post it now. But that's another several hours across all the channels, getting clips up and doing all the things. How do you manage that, or is that just worked into your schedule now?
Yeah, so I have employees now, so luckily I have people that do a lot of the work for me now, which helps. There's no way I would be able to do everything I do without people helping. So That's been a big help. That was, I mean, my mom is to blame for employees, because she had to like force me to get employees and to hire people and, you know, kind of delegate, because before that it was a lot harder. I wasn't doing half the stuff I was, you know, that I'm doing now before that. So yeah, without employees, it would be impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to jump in one more time because April Sparks.
April, shout out to April.
So she has written, fun fact, his mum told him to start the channel when he had eczema, an eczema flare up on your hands, and they told you it was blocked energy. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much why I started. You can't really see it right now, but usually you can kind of see red here and stuff, but my hands used to look like they were rotting. So I had this like crazy eczema where I would get these like blisters all over my hands, and like millions of little tiny ones, and then the skin would peel. It was really gross. So so that's what happened. And my mom told me, she's like, oh, it's probably energy trying to come out of your hands. She actually came into my room one night. She said, hey, you should start a channel. And I literally started that night.
Wow. So why was your mom so attuned to energy?
She's pretty intuitive. So I think she's always, been able to pick up on stuff.
Mm-hmm. So you grew up in a household where tarot and new agey stuff or weird woo-woo stuff was more normal?
It was normal. Yeah. Yep.
Well, good. All of us did then. Natalie and I also had interesting moms.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I'm so grateful for, because it gave me a basis to sort of develop from, versus having to sort of fight through, the mental blocks that so many are given when they have gifts that are showing themselves. Does your mum read tarot?
No, she doesn't read anything. So I think she's just intuitive.
And so do you, I just feel like, yes, machine gun question delivery here.
Go for it.
But do you use tarot in your daily life?
No, the way I was taught that I shouldn't read for myself. So I never pull cards for myself.
So you don't read cards for everybody else, though? You don't sit there?
Oh, like for other people? Yeah. No, most of the people in my life are not interested. So no one ever really asks me. The people that do, I will read for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You were shuffling cards before we started. Did you pull any cards?
No, I didn't.
I ask because when I'm on the phone, my friends hear shuffling, because I've always got oracle cards sitting around the house, especially if there's a new deck and I want to work with them a little bit more. And when conversations are happening and as they get deeper, I've generally channeled the answer for them, but they go, can you pull cards? And 9 times out of 10, I say, I already have. And the cards actually confirm everything. And I have to send them photos to show them. But it does become a bit like you're a circus monkey and they're going, perform. And I can't be mad, because I do that to my friends who have different gifts to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I think there's times where you just need to see a tangible, sign that things are going to be okay. All of us get in our heads, especially the people with Gemini placements. And I think shuffling cards is a good way to ground yourself. And then pulling the card is a really wonderful way to get confirmation and to help you focus on figuring out whatever is the answer to your mental question, right? Or that's how I find it.
Yeah, shuffling for me is like therapy. So, I have busy hands. So that's why I'm always messing with the cards.
I do the same way. And I feel like now it's a signal to the universe that I need to channel something, because it's almost like that gets me into that meditative state in a way, like the brain switches off and the shuffling just kind of quiets everything, and then the messages start to flow. And I will say, because we were talking about different places within the US before we started, and we brought up Mount Shasta, that if you've watched this show before, I'm not a fan. But when we were shopping, my sister would be talking to someone and she'd just say, oh, here we go. And I'd go, what do you mean? And she said, I always knew when you were tuning in, because she would just hear shuffling behind her, because I'd find some decks.
Yeah.
You both sound like such Pisces with Gemini placements.
I know.
Well, I do have a stellium in Pisces.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah. She's an Aries, but all that Pisces lurking beneath the surface.
There you go. Yeah. I have a stellium in Cap. So.
Oh, do you?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What is that? What do you have there?
What is it? It's I think Mars, Neptune, and what am I missing? There's like 4 planets there, and I think 2 asteroids.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like my Scorpio. Like Scorpio's got the asteroids and a few planets for me, but I'm a Libra, so I definitely feel very Libran. I think we have so much air energy represented here today.
I know, tons.
So just to finish informing everyone of the stelliums, I've got Mars, Venus, Mercury, and my midheaven all in Pisces. So it's a lot. So, okay, one of the questions I've been dying to ask, so the astrology, did the astrology knowledge come before the tarot, or did they sort of come together? How did that all come to be?
It was like kind of together at the same time, but then I got into tarot. I really focused on tarot, and I didn't really focus on astrology really super deep until I started the channel. So yeah, I would say mostly at the same time, but I kind of wasn't really that focused on astrology.
And how did the tarot come to be for you? Because if your mum wasn't reading, it's come from somewhere.
Yeah, no, I just I got a deck by accident. I don't even know how I got my first deck, and so I was always messing around with it. And then I started reading, and then I kind of just learned. When I started, I was just reading the images, so I didn't even really know the cards themselves, like each meaning in depth when I started. So people ask me that all the time. They're like, do I need to know all the meanings? I'm like, no, just whatever you think. Just say it and you'll probably be right. So that's how I started. And then I started learning when after that.
Do you have a favorite deck? I have to ask.
Oh yeah. Radiant Rider-Waite right here. So this and Golden Tarot, Cat Black version are my 2 absolute favorites. But a Radiant Rider-Waite is my favorite.
And you also always use oracle cards. So since Natalie is here and she loves oracle cards, tell us a couple of your favorite oracle card decks too.
Yeah, this one right here, which I can never remember the name of, Spirit Animal Oracle, or is this the Oracles? What is that the right one?
That's a Colette Baron Reid one.
Yeah, that one. This one right here, I can never remember the name of as well. Because I don't have the boxes for these for some reason. So this is the Sacred something, or I don't know. I actually don't know what the name of this deck is, but yeah, maybe it's like this.
I don't have that deck, but I almost wonder if it's Denise Lynn. I feel like it's.
I think that sounds familiar. Yeah. So it's her oracle deck. That's like one of my favorites. All of Colette's. I have all of Colette's decks. I love her decks a lot. And so yeah, those are probably my favorites.
I have discovered a woman on Etsy, and I never used to go to Etsy. Now I have to stay off.
Me too.
Because I have a problem. Such a problem. But you find these incredible creators that come up with these decks, and there are some. Oh, I might actually have to send you a link to a tarot woman that I love. I have never actually read with these cards. But to me, the artwork on them is just, oh my God, it's called Pic de Soleil. She's in Turkey, and the artwork on these cards is just breathtaking.
Ooh, I think I have that. I might have it somewhere. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So she has a whole range of decks, and they're just, I mean, how many tarot decks do I need considering I don't read them publicly? But there's a woman named Maruk X with the
Maruk. I have every Maruk X deck. So
that she is the reason I have to stay off Etsy, because I'm obsessed with her. My Ascending Life Oracle. That is my favorite deck to read with. For me, I always like the oracle cards that I can pick up, and I don't need to do any work. I can read from them straight away. And I've ordered so many decks that I get where with the oracle cards, it can be difficult, but sometimes I just find it's the same message on every card, or they're not that easy to read. And then there are others that you get and you just go,
there's some. That's why I really like starting my readings with Maruk X's decks, because they just have really good messages on them.
And I feel like anything? Oh, I was just going to ask Chris, does he know anything about who Maruk X is?
I don't know, but every time I use one of her decks, people always ask me about her decks, or whoever this person is.
I have tried to find out who she is because I wanted to see if she would come on the show. And I keep saying she. I don't know why.
Yeah, we don't know.
Feminine energy. It may not be a she, but I cannot find anything on this woman or this person.
Yeah.
Cannot find it. And I have tried.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's a question for both of you. One thing I notice from people who are really gifted reading cards is that they're also just extremely intuitive people. Mm-hmm. So do both of you feel, and especially Chris, because you've been doing this for so long, do you feel like you could just put the cameras on and start to read for each collective of each sign and receive the messages that you get confirmation for in your readings?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think, a lot of the times it just, I'll get a feeling before, like what the reading is about before I even start. So I would say yes. 9 times out of 10, I'm not even using the meaning of a card anyway. Like people always say, like, that's not what the 5 of Pentacles means. I'm like, yeah, but that's the message I'm getting. So I would say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I really like about your reading style. I think is that you do that. It's a conversation with all of the cards that you pull. So you're not just going, oh, now we have 5 of Pentacles. You are running out of money and you need to go into the church, or I don't know. So yes, I love your readings for that. And Elizabeth in the chat says, Maruk X is a woman who's in California.
Oh, wow. Thank you, there we go. Yeah, thank you.
So, because I asked Elizabeth, I said, do you have contact details? She's saying we can email her through Etsy. So maybe it's worth a shot.
It's worth it.
I really think she's amazing. And if we get her on, we might have to bring you on, Chris, as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to meet her because I love her decks.
I will say I often finish my readings and I do think that the cards for me are more confirmation than anything. When I shuffle, the first card kind of starts the reading and the rest of it just goes from there. And every time I pull cards, I go, okay, I've been off on a tangent on this topic. And then I pull the card and I forever giggle and go, you can't make this up. So for me, I feel like the cards are a safety blanket.
Yeah.
In terms of if I worry that I'm going to freeze, the cards are there to kind of give me a nudge. But Chris, you don't use reversals in tarot.
Yeah.
So why is that?
Because I take the whole reading into account. So I do use reverse meanings all the time. So like if we had like, the Magician with like the 7 of Swords and the Devil, then I would probably give a reverse meaning for, the Magician that's, right in that position. So I do, but I just, I take everything into account. That's how I read.
Do you have a favorite tarot card or cards? Yeah. Which ones?
Yeah, Ace of Wands for sure. I think Ace of Wands is just like that one thing people need to get motivated in life. Sometimes it's like that spark of life. So Ace of Wands has always been my favorite.
Okay, let's do another tarot related question. Which astrological sign watches the most videos?
Ooh, I would back in the day I would have said Pisces, but now it's so close between all of them. It's so hard for me to tell now. Yeah.
Really? There's no answer? No.
There's no answer. If I look at my top videos right now, it's Libra and Pisces.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know. Are we ready to move to geckos, or are we going to still ask tarot questions?
Yeah, whatever.
we had an animal communicator on. Oh, sorry,
I do have another tarot question, just because these cards came up in the last oracle reading that I did, even though they're oracle cards, but Death and Devil. And in tarot, I love those cards. When I was younger and before I had a deeper understanding of tarot, I feared them because they seem like dark cards. Whereas for me now, I think of them as transformative. Yeah. And I'm just curious as to your thoughts.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've always liked the Death card. So, the Death card to me is more like the death of an establishment. The king is dead on the Death card. So I always look at it as just, starting something new. And, it has the 2 pillars from the moon and the sun's coming up. So to me, it is like the light at the end of the tunnel. The sun is coming up on the card, on the card itself. I think devil can be sad or like scary depending on the situation, but even, I really started thinking about the devil as creation, or needing to create something, because those people are on the card and they have those animal horns on their heads, it kind of represents their like root chakra energy. So I look at it as needing to bring something up, like up and out. So that's how I've recently started over the past couple of years reading the devil.
And one last card I want to bring up, the Tower card. Again, I used to fear it, whereas now I think, great, things are moving, because I'm being Aries. I just want to go.
Right. Yeah. And to me, the Tower is like ignoring reality. So they're coming down to reality. And I'd rather not live in the Matrix. Right. So I rather see things for how they really are.
Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention that you do have a tarot class, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Are you still adding videos to that?
I'm not, but I think, I don't want to speak too soon, but I do think I'm going to kind of like overhaul that class. So I will be kind of redoing some of that stuff.
And then if I had to ask about a card that I really don't like to see, but you have a different view of it, I think is Seven of Swords.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the Seven of Swords. Personally, I like it. It's golden cards in tarot are always good. So to me, it's a card of tactics. Like he's stealing those swords from the army in the background. So I always look at it as needing to, do something a different way, whatever you're trying to accomplish, needing to like work your way around it.
I've seen readers also kind of differentiate between the minor and major arcana cards. And they'll say either, okay, it's minor arcana, so these are things that are going to be moving through your life more quickly and they're not as consequential. Or I don't know what else they'll say. But I mean, how do you see the difference between them, or do you see a difference?
Well, I mean, there is a difference, major and minor, but I don't really read that way. I don't think there's anything wrong with reading that way if that's how you read. But to me, it's just like, to me, tarot is it just depends, right? So I think sometimes a person could be dealing with the Five of Pentacles for forever, or maybe just for a short period of time. It really depends on the reading.
You know what? I have to ask one more tarot card question.
Let's do it.
Weren't you creating a deck at one point, or involved in one?
Yeah. So actually, I will have a copy of that soon. So yes, I don't have one here though.
Exciting. Do you want to share anything about it?
Yeah. So it's kind of like a light-based deck. So it looks like the best way I could describe it is like everything's drawn with like neon lights. So it's light in the dark tarot. And yeah, I think that it's going to be out soonish.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Because I need an excuse to buy more cards.
Yeah, don't we all?
I actually have a problem.
Yeah, me too.
Well, on our next show, we'll be doing recovery from tarot addiction.
Recovery, that's what we need to
what
do.
The devil card means for tarot readers and oracle readers. Anyway, so I do want to talk about geckos and mostly like because you are doing a business with geckos, and also we had an animal communicator on last time for this, and we never thought to ask her about any kind of reptiles and how we could communicate with them, but I imagine it's the same. So could you tell us how you got involved with geckos and what you're doing with them?
Yeah, well, I breed them. I breed crested geckos. So how did I get involved with it? I have no idea. I developed these weird obsessions. It might be my Gemini moon or whatever. So this was a obsession that I started, and yeah, just like one thing led to another. I met actually another YouTuber who talks about geckos on YouTube and stuff, and that's how I created the obsession right there. Right, so it's like a new thing to conquer for me.
How long is their lifespan?
Really long. So crested geckos, I think there's like reports of them living up to like 20 years in captivity. Wow. So yeah, really long. They're really easy to take care of. So they're, it's a pretty easy reptile to take care of. They have really low requirements, and yeah, they really don't have very many issues. So they can live a long time.
Could you describe what a crested gecko is?
Yeah, I should have brought one down here, but it's a gecko, and they have like these triangle heads, and so they have these like they're called eyelash geckos too, because it looks like they have these big eyelashes on their kind of on their crest on their head.
Oh, they're so cute. I'm looking at one.
Yeah.
So that's you raised that particular type of gecko?
Yeah, just those. I actually have one other type, but the crested geckos is what I'm really working on.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say is the? Oh,
There you
yay!
go. There you
Wait,
go. Yeah, there.
let me move that over here.
Look at
There it
that.
is. I love it. So cute.
Do they have personalities?
Yeah. So I have one named Ghost Pepper because he's the only one that he's the only one that bites. So I had to name him Ghost Pepper. He's white, and yeah, all of them. They're pretty chill as far as lizards are concerned. But every time I stick my hand in there to clean out his cage, he bites.
Does it
Oh,
hurt?
No, they don't have they don't really have teeth or anything, weak mouths. So yeah, for the most part, no. But he's the only one that's the one I would have brought for the animal communicator because he's the only one that has an issue. Everybody else is perfectly happy to be here.
Mm-hmm. Well, according to one of the things we learned from her last time was if you're getting a message, so if you are wondering whether there's an issue or what a problem is, it may be that you need to trust your intuition, and that's a message you are receiving from the animal. So.
Yeah, it could be. I should go up there and mess with them later so I can figure it out. You know.
Because there was somebody asking if their horse in the chat of the show we were doing, if her horse was lonely and needed a companion. And we had agreed prior to doing the show that we weren't going to ask her to do any readings live on air. But her response was normally the first hit that you get is absolutely the answer. So maybe you just need to ask him.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's just spicy. I think he's he's me on the outside is what it is. The things that I hold on the inside, right?
And exactly. But the whole thing is, if he's not hurting you, maybe he just likes the game.
I think that's it. He's perfectly happy. I actually put him in a much bigger cage because I was like, oh, he wants more space or whatever. But they actually, as far as a gecko is concerned, they really like being in smaller cages. They get stressed out if they're in something too big. And so he actually seemed more stressed out when I moved him to the bigger thing. So I had to move him to a smaller thing. And it's been a whole thing, so it has been a game.
And how many geckos do you have at any one time?
Right now, I have no clue. Over 30 at the moment. So I'm breeding them. I became obsessed with genetics. So I'm trying to create the ultimate gecko here with these geckos. So I have those. Plus I have like 30. I'm up to like 36 eggs now. So yeah, it'll be a lot, but I'm going to be selling some of them.
Wait a second, Natalie. He got bit by a gecko. He's trying to work on the super gecko.
Right.
Are you Gekko Man now?
I am Gekko Man now. Yes.
Secret identity of Chris Reck finally exposed.
Now we know what you do at night.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they are nocturnal.
Do you leave the eggs in with the female, or do you take them out once she's laid them?
No, I take them out. They wouldn't probably hatch if I left them in there. So I take them out. Yeah, they go in like a little box. I can show you a picture. They go in a little box that is just like separated, and it has. So I use this. It's like crushed up clay that goes into the bottom of it, and the eggs just go in there. And then they just hatch like almost 100 days later. I actually have one who egg that's ready, but it's not hatching because it's just being impatient. I don't know if you can actually, is it going to focus? Probably not.
Oh, yep. There it is.
So, and there's a little baby that you can kind of see right there. And so that's what they look like. Yeah.
How big do they grow?
They get to like, a big one would be like 50 grams, which I don't know how big that is in ounces, but yeah, they get like, maybe like 8 inches max.
Okay.
But yeah, some of them get bigger. Some of them can get to like 80 grams. So almost double.
Here's the real thing I want to know. So we know about Ghost Pepper, but do the others interact with you? Do they see you and get excited? Do you take them out of the enclosure and handle them? Or it's more just we exist together and we enjoy each other, but that's...
Yeah, I think the craziest thing that happened, I will tell you this, that I don't think they get excited to see me. I try not to bother them too much. I think I once heard a guy say that they tolerate being held. They definitely don't want to be held. So I think they will sit there in your hand and, but I try not to bother them too much. I do hold them from time to time because, the reason you want to hold them is that if you have to move things around, you don't want them getting too stressed out and everything. So I do hold them from time to time. But the weird thing is like, I'm convinced, if I'm feeding crickets, they all will come to like the front of the cage, even before I start really bringing them out, which is pretty weird to me. It's something I noticed that they can, I don't know if they can smell it or what. Yeah.
And these are only the crested geckos.
Yeah.
And would you say they're the best type to have as a pet?
I think it's probably the best lizard to have out of all the lizards. The easiest to take care of for the most part. Yeah.
What are the other types of geckos?
So the other ones are called kahua. They're so the other type I have, and they are like a kind of giant. There's several species. They're all from New Caledonia. So the New Caledonian geckos are like pretty much the largest in the world. There's one or two other species that are the largest that get like really big. And so these are mossy prehensile tailed geckos is what their normal name is. And that's a day gecko right there.
Oh, that's not the kahua?
No, I'll show you.
I
think I have a picture. So they kind of look like, so this is, well, I don't know if this is going to show up on here, but you can see there's one right there. And that's what they look like. That's a baby. And yeah, so they look kind of mossy. It looks like there's like lichen growing on their bodies. And those I might breed, but they are a lot harder. Yeah.
As in more sensitive because of the environment, or
they have, so what the thing about them is they have really high calcium requirements. So to create their eggs, they have to have a ton of calcium in their diet. But even there are actually people who specialize in kahua, and they have a hard time. Even the people who like specialize in breeding them, they have a hard time getting their calcium up. So the thing with the calcium is it really stresses them out if you don't do it right. Yeah.
Which geckos then are the easiest for just an ordinary person to buy and raise?
Definitely crested geckos for sure. I think they're the easiest. You don't even have to feed them bugs. I think that you should. A lot of people will say you don't have to feed them bugs, but people make like a diet that you mix with water and you just put it in their tank and they just are perfectly happy to eat it. Yeah.
So please tell me then, if you are going to sell these, how do you ship them to people?
So you put them in a container, and then I use what are called like phase packs. And so I like to use the phase packs. And if it's colder, you obviously put a heat pack in there. But phase packs, they work by like the changes in the temperature. So they get if it's getting I think if it's colder, they get hard. So the pack itself is liquid. And it gets hard, and the action of it getting harder actually like creates heat, and so it warms it up to the right temperature. But if it gets too hot, it also turns to liquid, and that cools the package down basically. And so that's how I ship mine. They get shipped overnight, but also I do like the whole priority overnight thing, so they're never in there for longer than 12 hours.
Do they get stressed in transport?
No, I don't think so. So like normally I would say other animals, absolutely. But I've had them, I had an issue like probably 6 months ago now where a guy sent them via UPS. It's actually illegal to send pretty much the way that he sent them. Because only FedEx is actually, they have special training for shipping animals, FedEx in particular, based off the box. So you're supposed to ship them in a white box. FedEx knows it's an animal. When it's supposed to say live animal on it and everything. And so they were stuck at UPS for like days, and I went and they were perfectly fine. So yeah, I don't know.
So I have to share one little story very quickly. I have a girlfriend who she's a vet nurse. She's in Australia. She used to animal sit, and she called me one day because she was taking care of somebody's house around the corner, and she said, "Do you want to come and meet Egbert?" And I'm like, sure. So I go in because I was meeting with her to go and walk the dog in the park, but she said, come and meet Egbert. Egbert is a tree frog.
Oh,
and
nice.
then my friend says to me, do you want to feed Egbert? And I'm like, sure. So she pulls out crickets.
Yeah.
And she was expecting me to freak out because she's thinking bugs, there's no way. I have never laughed so hard in my life. And this sounds horrible. I get that the crickets are a living thing, but feeding Egbert was one of the most fun things I think I'd done in the longest time. And it was because Egbert, having been bred and born in captivity, has no survival skills ever. And so I put these crickets in the cage with him, my friend's squealing and running away. I'm thinking, you deal with animals all the time.
Yeah.
And I have never seen such a bad hunter in my life. Those crickets' lives were extended because he was such a bad hunter.
Yeah.
It was the greatest thing ever. Do your geckos have the same issue?
Yes, they are dumb. The babies are even dumber. Like when the babies, you cannot put them in anything that is like bigger than, a container like this, because they are so dumb that they literally will starve because they won't find their food. So the babies I raise in super tiny containers until they get bigger, because they will just starve themselves. They're terrible hunters. They love bugs and they go after them like crazy, but they're terrible. The kahua, the other geckos I have, they are like laser beam snipers. They see a bug and they're just on it immediately. The crested geckos struggle big time.
It's just, I always figured it was an innate thing within them that they can do this. I'm watching Egbert jump around, can't figure it out. The tongue's going in every direction. And I'm going, dude, it's right there. And the tongue's sort of like next to it. And you see the cricket even going.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the same. I think it is their reaction. Their prey drive is super strong. Even it's clear to me that they really like eating bugs in the first place, because they're just the reaction when you put it in there. They move so quick and they're chasing it down. When I feed them, the powdered mixed food, they don't react very much to that. They eat it, but is it really exciting to them? No.
So are they social creatures? Can you talk to them and sing to them? Do they appreciate it?
Yes, I think that I talk to them, so I would say yes.
Do you sing?
No, I do not sing.
But do you play music for them?
No, they sleep during the day, and who knows what they're up to at night.
Funny. And so you did a recent move. Did they all just kind of come in your car?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, I packed them up into kind of those what do you call that? Food prep, the food prep containers, and that's what they moved in. Yeah.
Did you put holes in the top for air and things?
Yeah, and I changed them. I changed them like every single day, pretty much. It was a hassle. It was not fun. I will say that.
How long was the move for?
5 days, I think it took.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you had to move then with crickets also, or?
No, I just fed them their regular food during the move. Yeah.
All right. But if you happen to see a cricket, you could just catch it.
Yeah, I could have just tossed it in there. Yeah. That would have been convenient.
So, I don't know if we've covered all of the gecko conversation, systematically going down the list, but I was also thinking about the fact that you know so much about self-help books. Every manifesting coach, everyone who's writing a book with information about how to improve yourself. It seems like you're really familiar with that. And so I'm curious about what your library looks like also.
Yeah, it's there's a lot. Well, actually, my library is Audible, so I prefer to listen. I was total ADD, and I was dyslexic when I was younger too. So, although maybe I still am, but I still can't spell. And so I listen to everything on Audible, but I listen to pretty much everything. So I have tons of books. I can tell you what I'm listening to right now as well. But I've listened to pretty much everything. I'm listening to Day Trading Attention by Gary Vee. That's the last book that I listened to. But yeah, I've listened to pretty much every single self-help book that exists.
And you're doing financial information as well, it seems like. Is that what the latest one is?
That is day trading attention is about social media. So it's about getting attention.
Little do I know about that. So
yeah.
What are your favorite topics?
Definitely anything by Gary Vee. So anything social media. Also, anything having to do with business. Anything having to do with manifestation. Those are like my top 4. I'm just looking through here. And also, yeah, everything I'm seeing here that I've listened to recently has been business, law of attraction, or personal development for the most part. Yeah, that's pretty much it. In marketing, I should say as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're definitely not a fatalist then, where you believe everything is set in stone and it just is what it is. You do believe in the power of manifestation.
Yeah, I do. I understand when people say they don't. Doesn't. So I kind of see it both ways. But to me, what I've always thought is that it's free. It doesn't cost me any money to just think more positively and to move my thoughts in the right direction, right? So I really personally, I don't care if it works or not. I'm going to do it anyway, and it changed my life just being more positive. So I'll always practice it. But again, whether it works or not doesn't matter. I mean, just even emotionally, it works, right? For me, I'll say that.
I completely agree, just because I've had massive debates with people who are fatalists and go, absolutely not.
Right.
But for me, like, pardon me, sorry, I've had this for a few days. I think it's my allergies. But for the longest time, if you change your like mental attitude to how you're approaching certain situations, you can't change someone else, but you can change how you react to everything. And that alters the course of how it all plays out. And for me, that I think is one of the greatest tools of manifestation. With that being said, I do think there are fatalistic points in our life, certain destinies where we're meant to meet someone. There is a connection there that has to be honored. Our birth time, our death time, I feel like those things are set in stone, but everything in between, create what you want.
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way. Yeah, I definitely think there are like certain things that we're probably supposed to do or meant to do or whatever. But, I think how we get there is more up to us.
And where do you sit with all of that? You're muted.
I'm sorry. I had some background noise here, so I had to mute while I wasn't talking. Well, let's see here. I'm a Libra, so should I be in between all of that? I definitely agree that we come in with a map of sort of the direction we're supposed to go, and we have gifts and talents and things that happen to us that probably are more predetermined, I guess, or that we might agree to. I really do like that idea of we agree to a lot of things in our life in order to develop as a soul. I kind of see things on that big level. But then when we're here, it's what we do with everything, right?
Chris, have you listened to the Dolores Cannon books and all of those sort of things about reincarnation, Michael Newton and what have you?
Yeah, I mean, years ago I was obsessed with Dolores, so I listened to 1.5 billion interviews with her. Love Dolores, so yes.
I think it's impossible to be in this space and not have listened.
Yeah, impossible.
Something of Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you had a playlist of sort of top 5 spiritual teachers, and I guess actually, Natalie, I'm kind of infringing on one of our questions for the end, but it's not.
That's right. We'll ask it again at the end.
So we'll return to this kind of topic, but who would be on your top 5?
God, that's such a hard question. I would definitely say the British Buddhist guy that I can never remember his name, who I listen to all the time, Alan Watts. I would say I gotta go with the young old guy that who's the Power Now, Eckhart Tolle, right? Then I would say Dolores, of course, and then I need 2 more that I can't think of. So I don't know, maybe I only have a top 3, and I'm not sure if I can. Yeah, I would say those 3. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any of them that you encountered?
Can I say Charles Bukowski too? He's not spiritual, but he's got some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about your parents? Did they introduce you to any of those thinkers?
No.
What about, I mean,
they just threw me to the wolves. That was it.
And that's the only way to be raised.
I had to raise myself. Yeah, exactly.
Did you drink out of the hose too?
I did. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That's the best way to grow up.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. So you've kind of answered this because I'm going to ask another question, which I think is kind of in line with what I've already asked. But astrology, there are people that believe the astrology is set in stone. So, you've got these transits coming up and, that's a sucky transit. So therefore it's going to be a horrible time. I have always been of the belief that, yeah, we can have these transits that are not fun, but it's how you come out the other side. And again, how you meet the challenges. Where do you sit with all of that?
Yeah, same thing. I would say, to me, astrology is not a prison sentence. And even everybody complains about their Saturn return, but mine was awesome. So, I had a great time. So I think it's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my Saturn return was probably rough to begin with because I was shedding all the things that didn't serve me. But then what came of it and that transition period was amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know much about human design? Is that something that you look at?
A little bit. So I over the past couple of years, I've been learning about it. I'm a manifestor generator. So that's all that is the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah. I'm a generator and
yeah.
Natalie is a manifester.
Oh, look at that.
There's a lot of manifesting and generating happening right now in this group.
Yeah.
When you were talking, I was thinking he has to be a generator or a manifesting generator with everything you've created.
Yeah.
And I have learned to accept my energy flows and I'm good with it. But at the same time, when I'm around generators a lot, I do feel a little bit of shame that I have these moments where I go, I just have to go nap. Just bye and peace out.
Well, generators nap too, but they just have to spin out their energy first.
Yeah.
So if a generator's napping, you know that a lot's going on probably.
But you get a lot more messages from me and saying I am having a nap versus you. When you're having a nap, you go, I'm having a nap. I don't want to. And I'm getting into bed going, this is amazing. Oh,
I know.
That's the difference.
I thought about that. Yes, that's true.
Do you nap, Chris?
Never. And even when I was a kid, I never napped. I refused as a baby. Never.
Exactly. I was in preschool and I remember my mom had to take me out of the preschool because I refused to nap.
Yeah, I refused to nap. I mean, when I was a baby, I slept. When I was a very little baby, all I did was sleep. So I got it all in then.
Is that how it works?
That's how it works, yeah.
So did you talk early or later? Do you know?
I actually don't know, so I'm not sure.
Well, we'll have to ask your mom.
We'll have to ask her mom, yeah.
Yeah, that was my theory that Gemini placements speak. I don't know anything about this really, but
yeah,
my son also has a Gemini moon and he didn't talk for so long. And I know I also didn't talk a lot for a really long time. But then it's like when you start going, they don't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I started early or late, but I just haven't stopped. My ex-father-in-law used to say she would talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles. And I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah. I have Mercury right on my ascendant in Aquarius. So I think that makes me talk too.
Yeah. You're doing the perfect job for yourself then, I think.
I know. Yeah.
So how much, I think I've seen something somewhere that called you an astrologer and tarot reader. How much do you consider yourself an astrologer at this point?
Maybe like 70%, I would say.
Oh, wow. Because you used to always stop
not
and
like,
say,
I consider myself a tarot reader and I just happen to include astrology.
You used to say, on Chris's crappy astrology, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. That's the crappy side of the astrology.
See, whereas I used to call you an astrologer, I would have said, yep, Chris Reck, astrologer.
Yeah.
So it's funny, your perception of yourself versus obviously outsiders.
Yeah. I guess it's like, maybe I know more than like the average person, right? So maybe that's why.
I know, but I think if you know more than the average person, but you don't know as much as an astrological savant like
Right,
David
David.
Palmer,
Yeah.
right? You feel like I can't really speak on this and I don't know anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've literally seen David do charts in his head, which I don't even know how you get to that point. So he's like, "Oh, it's just math." I'm like, "No, it's not just math. That's way harder than math."
I'm
Right.
convinced when he's doing that, he can actually physically see the chart.
See
I've
it,
never
yeah.
asked him, but I'm positive that's how he sees it.
I think so too. I think he sees it in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why this connection just popped into my head, but I know it has to do with David probably too. What do you, and I've seen that you've talked on this issue recently. So what do you think about the usefulness of AI?
I think that it'll be useful for some things depending on like how it goes, and depending on what information they feed it. But I also see the bad side that could happen. So yeah, and that's what I would say there. I think that what I worry about, and I recently gave a talk about this too. My concern about it is that it becomes like a crutch, and we just become weak. Not in kind of like mentally, because we just use it so much. We don't look for answers. We don't exercise the brain, and then we kind of atrophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way. Anne and I had this discussion last night because
Yeah.
David talks about AI a lot, and I just have
Yeah.
no interest. And I see the really positive things AI can do for us. And I mean, I love the artwork that it creates. I have a helper for my artwork. Thank you, Anne. She's amazing with all this stuff. But in terms of writing my video descriptions and writing things, I choose to do it on my own. And everyone says, just use AI. But I keep explaining to people, I read a lot and I physically have to read the book because where listening is easier for you, if I listen, my mind wanders. Whereas if I sit with a physical book, I'm absorbing the words and it keeps my focus. But if I'm not physically writing the descriptions, if I'm not mentally coming up with the title for a video or something like that, I feel like it will become worse and worse as opposed to improving and figuring it all out. And I worry about becoming a zombie myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I think about it. And like I come from the copywriting world too. And so there's a lot of people in the copywriting world that are using it to write copy, but it's not good copy. It's not even really that great yet. But also like that's a skill that I don't want to lose. So, I feel like if I don't practice it, then I'm going to lose it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that way also, that every time I sit and think, okay, I'll have AI write this quick description for something, I'm never happy with what it does.
Yeah.
And I sit and argue with AI for longer than it would take me just to do it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much only a big fan. Like I use it to break down structure of video. Like that's the big thing that I have it do. So, if I find a video that I want to, kind of like replicate, or I want to know what the structure of the video is, I think it's good for that. But when you go to get it to fill in the gaps, it's not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I love AI for those big things. I mean, and there's so much possibility for using it that I think we all need to think about the big picture things. AI, we don't need to worry about it taking all of our jobs necessarily. I mean, that's what I was watching a film, and I'm trying to think what it was, with Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. Desk Set maybe is what it's called, and they work in a newspaper, and there is this giant computer coming that's going to take up an entire room, and everybody is worried about how they're all going to be fired, and it's this big concern over, oh no, the computer's coming, it's going to take all of our jobs. So it's not anything new. I think there's always a new technology and we're always worried about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's really, if it goes good, it'll create more opportunity.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is, and I understand that it's artificial intelligence, but there is somebody programming, there is somebody overseeing this. And depending on who that is, it changes the energy of it. It changes the direction that it gives and how it disseminates information. And that for me is a really scary thing, because as much as people want to believe that it's this autonomous thing, I don't believe that it is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and also what I will say is that, that's what I do. That would be my one argument for why people should use it, is because it is still kind of using information that people are feeding it. So if you want it to be fed with good ideas, feed it with good ideas, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's why I think you always need to know, you still need to know things in order to use AI effectively.
Yeah, it's like the calculator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or it's the old garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. Exactly.
Right. But
Yeah.
on a big scale. So I guess that's why, that's where it can go wrong. When you've got one little thing going wrong in AI, it can spread so much more quickly and wider, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, be aware of your knowledge. Keep knowing things, learning things.
You keep learning. Yes.
Because AI always comes up also, since I like to use it to look up historical information. And it really does help to get me thinking in places I wouldn't normally think. But then also, if it tells me things, and I know the information, it's just, what are you talking about? It's always so wrong.
Yeah, you have to fact check it.
That was going to be my question, because there are stories where lawyers have used AI to give them precedent-setting cases, and they've gone into court and argued without fact checking, and then the cases have never existed.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It is crazy.
And I sit there and ask it, you told me this. Why did you do that? I wonder if they're keeping logs of it, because, it would be funny to see how all the different people respond. I think that'd be a great book myself, but.
Yeah, that probably would be.
So I want to take this conversation in kind of at a 90-degree angle, but I'm curious because there are certain things that AI is never going to be able to do. It might be able to do a tarot reading, but it's obviously not going to be channeling anything. It's going to be taking the literal meaning of everything. You've made some pretty big predictions yourself. So you predicted that COVID was coming.
Yeah, 2016.
You didn't call it COVID, but you had a prediction that something was coming and it had to do with a virus. And also you've been talking about, and you're not the only astrologer or intuitive that's been coming up with these sort of things, but you've also talked about the change in money coming.
Yeah.
So where does that come from? Is that just a channeling thing that you do?
Yeah, that and Neptune and Pisces, I would say, because Neptune and Pisces rules anything that flows. And, I was actually looking at years ago, I was looking at things that happened with Neptune and Pisces. And I think, and not just Neptune and Pisces, but Neptune in general. And I was looking at the degrees, and I noticed every time Neptune went to 18 degrees, something weird would happen. Like JFK assassination, I think Neptune was at 18 degrees or whatever sign it was in at the time. And so it started with Neptune, and then and also I just kind of feel like money is going to change, and so that's partly where it comes from. But we're getting to the at the end of 2025 or whatever, when Neptune changes signs, I was like, oh, that's like a weird. There's like a lot of weird stuff going on. A bunch of planets moving big planets moving at the same time as well, because Uranus changes signs, and what else?
Saturn, is it Saturn that'll be coming into Aries?
Yeah, Saturn and Aries,
and Pluto,
right? And Pluto's going to be in Aquarius. Yep. So, yeah, putting that all together, I'm like, oh, big change.
Well, an AI can't make those predictions, or maybe it can,
right? Maybe it can. Yeah.
Depending on who's feeding it. So, do you see these changes being good changes in terms of money, or do you see it being something a little darker, or is it just that transition can always be difficult?
Yeah, I think transition can always be difficult. I think it's going to be positive and, hopefully be more free, I hope. Especially I think, if you look at the setup too, Uranus and Taurus, like, Taurus to me is freedom. And so I think that this could lead to hopefully more freedom. So yeah, I feel more positive about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have one other question. Sorry, Anne. So with the whole COVID thing, because there's obviously talk about bird flu and what have you. So with the astrology, do you see that coming to be a bigger issue than what it is now?
No, I think maybe something else. So if I had to guess, I don't think they're going to try the same trick twice if I had to guess.
Interesting. So, since we're talking about these issues, I'm just wondering, would you ever want to do more discussions on your own show about esoteric, weird, hidden things or prophecies and predictions, all those sorts of things?
Yeah, definitely. Yes. And I probably should do more.
Yeah, I don't know if that's difficult though. I mean, if you did something like that, would you think that it would take away from the tarot channel? Do you feel like you're always going to have to maintain the tarot channel as it is at this level right now?
Yeah, kind of. If I post other stuff on that channel, people don't really watch it, which makes sense because they're there for the tarot. So, yeah, I think maybe some people will watch it, but it definitely probably wouldn't get as many views.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that seems to happen, I think, to people who create on YouTube is you get into a category. But I don't think you don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. If I'm thinking through the Dent Makers philosophy, right? Wouldn't you want to make the most out of your category, right?
Yeah, I think you should be the category leader, or at least try to be. So, because it's usually like the top 1% of everything does the best, right? So you want to kind of get into that top 1%. I mean, I think that really, with tarot, even if you have 10,000 subs, you could do very, very well with YouTube. So I don't think you necessarily have to be at the top, but definitely from, I look at it as like the time investment is you definitely want to be closer to the top, right?
And how do you suggest people get there? Get to the top?
Experiment is what I would say. I think especially with the amount, like the competition, if I were to start today all over again as a tarot reader, if I was doing something else, totally different story. But in tarot, I would be experimenting with like different types of readings. I would be talking about different topics than love, right? I would, and also I would come up with a different way of reading. Like, I've thought about this a lot. That I would try to, I don't even have any good ideas. So I don't about it. So I don't even know what I want to say right now, but I would just try to come up with a different way to present it, package it, put it together. Do you need to like change locations? Like, would that be cool if you did, part of the reading in your kitchen, then you did another part of the reading in another part of your house, and you kind of mixed it all together? And that might sound silly, but I literally feel that the packaging, the way you present it, if you mix that up, you would stand out.
That's interesting. What do you think most people pay attention to in your videos besides the content?
Probably the content. Although, occasionally I just got a comment on my post about my socks, and I'm like, you can't even see my ankles. So I don't know. Sometimes I wonder what people pay attention to, but hopefully the messages, right? Some people, I just moved, so I have nothing behind me right now. I'm waiting. My audio is terrible because I'm still waiting. I had to get sound panels made for this room, but they're not here yet. So the sound isn't as good. Some people have commented about it. So do they notice production quality? Yes.
Do you find, I mean, my channel, my Oracle show is only small. Like I said, it's not something that I push on YouTube. I've just sort of put it out there and left it there because realistically the readings started because of High Vibe, and they're still on High Vibe. I just did this as an add-on so people could share it if they wanted to show people about it. But every single show I get DMs about what sort of show I should do, how I should do it, how I should present it, all of that.
Yeah.
Do you get the same thing?
Sometimes, I'll get a comment or whatever where people say, don't do this, don't do that. But I don't know. I just ignore it.
I was just curious at the volume of that coming through that you might get.
It's not very much. I would say maybe, one every few months I get a comment like that.
Do you think that people's awareness around spirituality and all of the topics associated with it, whether it be tarot, astrology, human design, manifestation, all of that, do you feel like awareness has grown and the community has grown, over the last 10 years that you've been doing this? Or do you think it's just, it feels like it's bigger because we've found each other?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Like, I think it has gotten bigger. And I also think we've found each other. The community seems to be growing, and there's like more and more community stuff. I see more and more events going on, things like that. So I think people are finding it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have that show also, Leading Out Loud, LOL, with that you do with Christopher Witecki and friends.
And friends, yeah.
I mean, and I think that's definitely an example of communities coming together, and doing a show like that is a good example of it.
Yeah, that's a big reason why we're doing it, is, coming together. I'm a big fan of collaboration right now, Pluto and Aquarius. So I think everybody should do something to collaborate.
Sorry, I had a helicopter.
No.
Gotta
pause for the helicopter.
Yes. All right. You know what? I just thought of a question that I really would like to ask, and it's coming out of nothing other than that I'm a historian, and I'm curious about this. For both of you, if either of you had to choose your favorite historical figure and example for your life, who would you pick?
Man, I want to say Batman, but he's not a historical figure. So
Well, he could be.
No. I don't even know who I would pick. Such a tough question.
It is a tough question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it moves all the time. But right now, I'm kind of obsessed with Abraham Lincoln,
because I like Lincoln.
We did the show about Abraham with this about the Civil War, and that kind of ties into the Neptune and Pisces thing. But I really admire him I admire people who are those ones that get us out of sticky situations, the ones who are that kind of a little bit weird outsiders that see things differently, and they're the ones that are in the right place at the right time and can pull us through something like the Civil War.
Yeah.
But Batman's good too.
Yeah, Batman. I don't know. You stumped me with that question, because I'm running through all the figures in my head and I can't pick one. So that's a tough question.
Most people aren't thinking about history at the top of their head all the time,
yeah.
like me. But then Natalie, I noticed you haven't said anything. Who's the big Australian hero?
I don't know that I'm going to be able to answer this, because I'm thinking about the qualities that I like. So I don't know. Maybe I can tell you the people I look up to, and you can give me the names, and I can say yes or no. And because history is not my strongest suit either. It's not. But for me, it's whoever stuck to their beliefs and lived a life with integrity, even if the whole world was going, no, you're crazy, but they knew at a cellular level, this is what I'm meant to be doing, and this is the right thing to do. And they were a trailblazer.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know which one person that is. And I know throughout history, there's plenty of people that are like that, but I can't pinpoint one specific one, which makes me feel really stupid.
No, and I don't know Australian history, so that makes me feel really stupid. But it's interesting that earlier Chris mentioned Alan Watts, and I feel like he's one of those types of people, because I read his book called The Book. And we did that on High Vibe. I did that with Craig back when he was on High Vibe, and we did a little book group and read that. So I learned a lot about him through that book. And what was interesting was he talked about how, he grew up in this traditional English household where you went to the Church of England and, you were Anglican and you accepted that philosophy. But in the midst of that, he had enough sense of his own belief system and self that he pursued Eastern philosophy, and from a very young age knew that he questioned what the church was teaching. And I mean, sometimes it's just something from within a person that makes them be born like that. And then, he came, of course, in the 60s, you go to California and find yourself and study the Eastern philosophy in California, where Chris has never been, but we'll soon see, right?
Yeah.
So I think he's a really interesting person like that, Natalie, the kind of person you were talking about. So
the reason I say that, I try to live my life with integrity. I try to be really honest and upfront about who I am. And even when I've lived a life where people have always tried to get me to conform to something that just feels unauthentic to me. And I've tried to live a life where I go, even if it's difficult, I'm going to stand here and do my thing and trust that my tribe will find me. And I feel like I've been successful in creating that or manifesting that in my life. And I think those are the people that can change the world. So there are people in the chat picking Joan of Arc.
Oh yeah, she's a great one.
Yeah. Trying to see if one person that he's a controversial figure, and I don't think he's considered historical at this point, but Richard Branson. Because if ever you've read his book, how he created his empire, I remember finishing reading it and just going, I can conquer this world, and going out and doing that. Those are the people that I love. But I understand why he's controversial. Don't come for me. I get it. Who would yours be? So you're Abe Lincoln at the moment, but
at the moment I'm Abe Lincoln. I think it's interesting. So I'm thinking of the historic figures because I did look up who are famous people with Gemini moon, because both of you have moon in Gemini. And I thought, am I going to be outnumbered by these people today on Gemini rising? And I couldn't believe the variety of people. But they're on that post that I did. There's Pope John Paul II, who was very influential in changing the policies of the Roman Catholic Church.
And he was Polish, as am I. I just need to throw that out there.
See, there you go. I hope there's not a connection between both of you and all of these people, because then it was Mussolini.
No.
Oh, nice. What a great leader.
And then it was Catherine the Great of Russia, Vladimir Putin, who is also a Libra. So I was happy to kind of just be like, oh yeah, he's a Gemini moon, not a Libra. Who was the other one? But 50 Cent was one, and I put his music on the post. And Queen Victoria, come on, one of the most known queens of all time. Yeah, so a lot of really, I don't even know, kind of radical people, very different people.
I want to say royalty, and not necessarily royalty in the way of wearing the crown, but royalty in terms of that presence and that thing. Because while Mussolini might not be seen as a king, in his own mind he was.
Iggy said in the chat, so sorry, ADD moment, Benjamin Franklin. Yes, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I love Benjamin Franklin. I love the Franklin series too. So for Chris, Sir William Wallace the Knight, or
yes, Braveheart.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'll take it. Yes. Yes, definitely him.
Do you know I've never watched that film?
Oh my God. Tonight. You have to watch that.
Yeah.
I have
to have a high vibe screening.
Greatest movie ever. Yeah.
Yeah, because David's always using quotes from it in spiritual dance music. So
of course he is.
Yeah.
Well, David's always talking about movie references, and he looks at me because he'll talk about the whole reference, and then he looks at me and I just go,
never seen it.
And it's become a joke. And now we all get very excited when he talks about a movie. I go, I've seen it. I know what you're talking about.
All right. Well, we've been talking and doing our Gemini thing and jumping all over the place. So I'm wondering, is it time for us to ask our questions, Natalie?
Let's.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Natalie.
No. Please do it.
So every show we try to ask the same 4 questions to each of our guests. So nice. I'm going to start with the first one, and that is, what makes you laugh?
Everything. So I don't know. I laugh at pretty much everything, but I've been watching a lot of comedy roasts recently, so that's been making me laugh.
Okay, so question 2, you've kind of already answered, but we're going to whittle this down to 1. Who was your biggest spiritual influence?
The biggest one. Yeah, I would say probably Watts, because I watched him a lot at a certain time in my life. Yeah.
Great. And then what would be your advice for people on how to transcend fear?
I have terrible advice for this, because I think we should just do it. Get push through the fear, just go straight towards something and kind of plow right through it. It's the only way. You're going to be scared no matter what. Everything like I've ever been scared of, I always find out it's not that scary after I do it. So I think really that's the only answer, is to bust right through it.
Just before I ask the final question, I just need to say, April has said that your assistant makes you laugh.
Yes, April, my assistant, makes me laugh. That is very true.
Okay, and number 4, what is the best piece of spiritual advice you have ever been given?
I would probably say Wayne Dyer, who's another teacher I could have added to the list. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, oh, duh. It was just such a mind blower for me at the time. Now it's simple, but then it blew my mind.
Mm-hmm. I went through a stage where I watched Wayne Dyer videos all the time. I mean, there were so many that were put on YouTube that I just went through.
Yeah.
Stacks of them. And then also the Abraham Hicks videos, you could watch those all day long too. And then so many great Alan Watts videos.
So many great ones.
But I also do think some of the simplest pieces of spiritual advice are the things that can change our lives the most. Because if you implement that one really basic tool in your life, or that one basic way of thinking, it can shift everything moving forward.
Yeah, that's what happened. Because I was looking at my life and I was just like, oh, I just can see it a different way and I can make it better. And that was it.
Right. Great.
So simple.
Okay. Well, on that simple note, I would say this was not a simple discussion. We enjoyed having you so much, Chris. This was really fun. And thank you. You were one of the first people I thought of when we started this. And I've learned so much from you that I have not implemented, even 75% of yet, but I'm going to go out there and do it. So we would recommend everyone looking up Chris on Minnow Tarot. I think most people know that, but also check out his Dent Makers community, and we'll make sure we have the link for that in the description below. Also the geckos. I don't know. Are you geckos coming soon?
Geckos coming soon. Yes.
Geckos coming soon.
Yeah.
Light and dark, light out of darkness tarot coming soon.
Light in the dark tarot coming soon. Yeah.
And we look forward to learning so much else about you and seeing all of the wonderful things that you do. So thank you.
And when we can get Marika X, we'll get you back here as well.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
All right. We're going to sleuth her out.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is my new mission.
All right. Well, and you can also follow Natalie and I on High Vibe TV. Make sure you like and follow here as well. Natalie's going to have an interview next week, right? Coming up with...
Yes. So I'm speaking with a doula. So my interviews are often a little bit further away from the spiritual world, but this conversation, not so much. This woman is fascinating. So we're going to be talking about home birth versus hospital births. We've actually allotted 2 hours to film this interview because there's so much information. So I'm really excited about that.
Great. All right. That's next week. Can they watch it live, or it's going to be released?
No, it'll be released. So we're filming Wednesday, so it'll probably come out Monday. Okay. I think that's it for today. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone. Bye. Thanks for joining us. Bye. you.